and celebrate Planes of Fame's collection right here at Santa Maria Airport. I'm joined up here on the microphone by Brian Finnegan. He's the Planes of Fame Director of Education Programs and Museum Development. Brian, he's good to have you up here. Brian is really the expert on a lot of these air collections, and he's going to be helping me out with those morphers up in the sky.
Thank you, Buggy. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here. We're thrilled to be here at Airfest this year, and we'll put it on this show. Hope you enjoy it. Let us know by supporting the museum as much as possible.
And we have the round, the Method 7. Well, and you, my friend, are the winner. Give me your name.
My name's Red Jeffro, J-E-F-F-R-O. You can find me on the interweb. I'm a buster.
Red Jeffro. Well, you are the winner of the raffle. Congratulations.
Well, I rode a train out here from Tennessee for a raffle ride that I won last year. And I'm a bit nervous because I ain't never been in an airplane.
Well, I think you're going to have a great time. The Method 7 Piper Cub out there is a fabulous aircraft, and I think you're going to really enjoy the flight. Are you looking forward to it?
Well, yes. I brought my 6-act because, you know, when I was, growing up, my nickname was Chum on the fishing boats. So, you got any tips for me?
No, I think he's going to have a good time and trying to chum on there. But you are quite the talent on the picking here. Let's listen to this.
Okay, here's a little bit of a lullaby. Let's see if you can name it. Got it? Bring it on, my baby bumblebee. Now here, listen. Bring it on, my baby.
Baby bumblebee.
Bring it on, my baby. You can go on all day.
I know you can, but we're gonna have to put the banjo down for the airplane. We can't take it with you in the aircraft, so we'll have the fella down here named Mike. He's gonna hold on to that while you go for the flight today. But
you said Mike. I thought they were joking me because they told me to look for Mike Tyson out here. They said he'd give me a real slam dunk of a ride in an airplane.
Well, it will give you a great ride in the airplane. So I think you're gonna look forward to it.
So that's no joke. Michael Tyson is who I should look for.
That's the guy you want to look for.
Okay. Okay.
Well, Red Jeffro, any final, I shouldn't say final words before you fly, it won't be your last word.
And don't jinx me now.
Any good words for the crowd?
Well, follow me on the interweb. You can find me at Instagram, redjeffro.com.
All the way out here from Tennessee, he's won the raffle. Red Jeffro and the banjo picker, and we're really glad you get to do this on your very first flight. What a unique venue.
Well, it's such a beautiful day. I mean, I'm from Tennessee, so I'm used to a little more humidity and a whole lot more hillbilly.
Well, you're going to have a great time on the flight, Red Jeffro. Thanks for being up here with us.
Thank you very much.
Well, very shortly, where you see we've got the Planes of Fame collection taxiing out. P-38 Lightning in the front. SpamCam P-51 from the museum. Actually, all 4 aircraft are from the museum. The F-4U Corsair and the F-8F Bearcat all pulling out in the runway. Very, very rare aircraft. Brian, I'm pretty sure the P-30, it really...
Aircraft that flew here in Santa Maria that we know of, and there are only a handful of P-38s left that fly in the world still today.
Hey, Mike, so he's going to be flying with you a little bit later, the winner? All right, good deal. So we'll send North America, 1 in Europe. Of course, the venerable P-51 SpamCam. The F-4U Corsair, only about a dozen of those flying, and then the Bearcat, about 5 still flying worldwide. So as you can see, some very, very rare iron on the ramp here. They're doing the run-up checks, checking the oil pressure, checking the temperatures before they get rolling here. We're going to kick it off. To get them taken off, they're going to head out over the hills, and they'll be setting up for the national anthem that we'll be doing here in about 10 minutes to kick off the show. Only flying Mosquito left in the world, I believe, Brian. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
Based up in the Sacramento area, they've got that restored and flying in a small collection up there. Honored to have them down here. We're going to tell you all about these aircraft throughout the day. And our 4-ship on the takeoff roll, interval takeoff, about 10 seconds spacing, and they'll go out and rejoin into their formation. Also, make sure you do get all the way down to the far right side. There are more military statics, jets, props, all the way down that end of the ramp. I know Beale Air Force Base brought out a black T-38, really great looking aircraft to come see. I think the pilot will be out there here shortly. The FAA grants them the permission to run the airspace within about 5-mile radius here of the airport. They put together all the waivers. They would coordinate things for months in advance to make this make the event happen as far as airspace goes and FAA coordination. A big thank you to them.
Actually, they're flying down with.
What is it?
It's this board.
Oh.
They'll get probably fly down there and get the formation. Let's get over to it.
Hey Brian, tell me a little. I know Planes of Fame's got a lot going on. Tell me a little bit about what's the latest.
Well, we're ready for a few weeks north of the Radisson there. We're going to break ground on a new 26-acre site, the first phase. The hangar will be going up, we hope, in the next few months, and we'll have a base of operations here in Santa Maria, hopefully by this time next year or a little after it. Out of this, our flight operations will be centered, including our restoration work. We have several aircraft under restoration, and those projects will be up here, where we can do the test flying up here in this area.
Pretty exciting stuff. A lot of cities around California were competing to get Planes of Fame to expand into their area. Karen Alvarez, a senior at Rigetti High School, is going to be giving an a cappella rendition of the national anthem. Karen's up here with me. We'll be kicking that off here very shortly.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the rampart we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Karen Alvarez, senior at Rigetti High School. Karen, great job. Thank you so much. Are we going to have you back here tomorrow also? Terrific. Thank you so much. Aircraft, the Planes of Fame P-38, flown by Mr. Kevin Eldridge. Number 2, Joel Swagger flying in the Planes of Fame P-51 called Spam Can. Robbie Patterson in the Planes of Fame F4U, the venerable Corsair. And Mr. John Hinton flying the F-8F Bearcat, also from Planes of Fame. They're going to come in right now. This is a great photo shot in the beautiful sky. Take a look. What you saw there was called the missing man formation. It goes about an aircraft action coming up.
I think a lot of people are here.
So I don't think these aircraft are in the Planes of Fame collection, Brian. We're going to see this KC-135 and the C-17. I don't know.
No, we don't have anything this big.
I think we're on the show right, just a little bit right of the hot pit area. You'll see the large KC-135 aerial refueling. They've got the aircraft opened up. They're showing people the venerable 135. Plane's been around a long time. It's going to continue to serve for a long time, doing the aerial refueling. One of the unique things you're going to see here very, very shortly is going to be a demonstration of aerial refueling. Started by the Key brothers in Mississippi, Key Field and Meridian. They figured out how to do the air refueling we perfected over the years, and it's one of the great things that, for example, the Chinese Air Force and the Russian Air Force, they do, but they don't do near as well as us. Our adversaries, always learning, trying to figure out how we're doing these sort of things, but nobody does it greater than the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Navy.
It's literally a flying gas station. It's an aircraft that can carry a large payload of fuel, and then see how they demonstrate that. Let them fly over other places of Fame orders.
So Brian, Kevin Eldridge there in the first aircraft peeling off there, the P-38, again, one we said earlier, one of only 7 in the world. We're saying, you told me 10,037 of these aircraft were built by the Lockheed Corporation, and this one was exactly in the middle, number 5.
By cadets who were transitioning from, they'd completed their training. It was training that took almost a year, and then they would come here and they would learn to fly a twin-engine P-38 before being deployed to either the Pacific or the European theaters.
You know, it was called, the nickname they had for it, the Germans called it the Fork-tailed Devil. It was a very effective aircraft, and the Japanese, I didn't know this till recently, they called it 2 planes, 1 pilot because of the unique configuration with the twin boom.
Yeah, 2 planes with their arms around each other.
So that was the aircraft that Richard Bong flew with 40 air-to-air victories. Thomas McGuire had 38 of them. It was used mainly in the Pacific Theater, the China, Burma, India Theater. It was the primary Pacific fighter until the Mustangs appeared at the end of the war, but noted for its great range. In fact, when the Army Air Corps went to go get Admiral Yamamoto, they did dead reckoning navigation, and they found their way over Bougainville literally at the same time that Admiral Yamamoto's flying aircraft was there, and they were able to engage with that and shoot it down. Yamamoto was, of course, the architect of the Pearl Harbor attack, and so taking him out of the war really did put the Japanese in disarray. Yeah, Yamamoto was in one of 2 Betty bombers. They had a big escort with the Japanese fighters, but I think he said the P-51's coming in at 50 feet all the way, for a couple hundred miles all the way out there to get him. 50 feet off the deck to avoid detection, and then the fight was on. Radio silence, the P-38s literally followed the leader, who had, of all things, they'd installed a Navy compass in the lead P-38 because of the accuracy of the Navy compasses over aircraft compasses. Now on the runway rolling out right now, P-51 Spam Can, about 140 or so P-51s, 140, 150 still flying worldwide. Probably the most, I guess, notable, the most popular, recognizable.
Yeah, certainly the most recognizable. This is, of course, the D model. There you'll see a little earlier, you'll see an A model fly, and then there's also a C model that'll fly. And this is the little hot rod of the Navy, the F-8 Bearcat. Developed during World War II, but was too late to enter service, and so it really served itself in the inter-war periods between World War II and the Korean conflict. Now, a nice view coming down final approach here, the F4U Corsair. You notice that gull wing shape. They had to put that gull wing in there
because of the gigantic propeller on the front of that, to actually give it the ground clearance. But it gives that beautiful design. If you remember the old TV show from many years ago, Baa Black Sheep, this was the aircraft that it represented, and it flew primarily for the United States Marine Corps.
Well, and Huggy, this actually is a star from Baa Black Sheep back in the 70s. This aircraft was featured in that film. And most recently, this aircraft was also featured in the movie Devotion.
That was a great movie, by the way. That was a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it's a true story. It's a story of first African-American naval aviator Jesse Brown and his relationship and friendship with another naval aviator, Tom Hutner, and what happens to them in the skies over Korea during the 1950 to 53 conflict.
So I know many of the Planes of Fame's pilots were involved in the production of that movie. Is there a... So the KC-135 you see overhead, also part of the Aldous Air Force Base crew, but they're working out of Southern California at March Air Reserve Base near Riverside. Now they're out there holding, working with Jim Gibson, our air boss, setting up into the airspace and holding for the demonstration that we're going to be shooting. They're out there on the hold while the Planes of Fame aircraft come back on in here. We'll just stand by for the takeoff. Stay ahead on your water, and on the takeoff roll, ladies and gentlemen, the C-17. Let's listen.
September of 1991. Since then, the aircraft has set over 30 world records, including payload to altitude, time to climb, and longest airdrop mission in history. The new age design includes a modern computerized glass cockpit, heads-up displays at both pilot stations, and an advanced cargo handling system allowing it to operate with a crew half the size of similar cargo carrying aircraft. So Brian, as they stand out there, kind of an interesting factoid I kind of figured out. The C-17 holds about 35,500 gallons of fuel. I think that works out to about 200,000 pounds roughly. But if you pulled that thing up to the gas station, I think most gas stations would put the fuel in the car at about 10 gallons a minute. If you were to fill up the C-17 at a gas pump, it would take you 2.5 days at the gas pump to fill that thing up, just to give you an idea. Wow. And it's $6 a gallon. Yeah. I'm glad I'm not paying the bill. Oh wait, yes, we are paying the bill. Yes.
As you saw, the takeoff, really short runways are not a problem. 3,500 feet by 90 foot wide are well within the capabilities of this amazing aircraft. So to start off today's demonstration, the crew is going to perform the high-speed pass. With this aircraft capable of accelerating to over 350 miles an hour on this pass, it demonstrates the extremely powerful engines of this magnificent jet. The engines are the same engines that you would find on a Boeing 757, about 40,000 pounds of thrust each.
Yeah, I mean, let's notice when it passes by how quiet it really is. That low noise gives the operators a tactical advantage while flying low over hostile territory and allows for more suitable operations at airfields near heavily populated cities.
Well, this reliable airlifter, it really combines that intercontinental cargo carrying capability of the large aircraft like the C-5 Galaxy, about the largest aircraft in the world, and the short field landing potential of the much smaller C-130 Hercules. Now, I want to mention the C-130 flying in the California Air National Guard, both up at Moffett Field in the Bay Area, just south of here, down at Point Magoo. So you probably see those in the local area.
So the C-17 is powered by 4 Pratt & Whitney F-117 engines. These are the same engines used on the Boeing 757. Each engine delivers over 40,000 pounds of thrust. This amount of thrust allows the Globemaster III to carry over 170,000 pounds of cargo. That's 85 tons, the equivalent of 7 school buses or 1 M1 Abrams tank, for an astounding range of up to 2,400 nautical miles, without even utilizing its air-to-air refueling capability.
All right, take a look, show right. The aircraft's now going to perform the slow speed pass. You'll notice the wing leading edge slats and the large powered lift wing flaps extended. These devices change the shape of the wing, and they are really the key to its low final approach speed, enabling the aircraft to land and stop in very, very short distances. We've got the luxury of big runways in the U.S., not so much in other undeveloped parts of the world, and that really is where the C-17 makes its money. You thought that was a little slower than you thought the plane could fly. I know it was for me.
Well, the C-17 is now going to maneuver for a circle over the airfield, showing its ability to fly not only at slow speeds, but also to demonstrate its advanced aerodynamics in action. The aircraft uses a quadruple redundant fly-by-wire system for the operation of flight controls. This is combined with 4 separate flight control computers, each capable of controlling the entire system independently. The system is designed to optimize the capabilities of the C-17, yet maintain enough redundancy to protect against a wide range of failure conditions. Another feature of this amazing flight control system is that the aircraft can also be flown in an entirely mechanical backup mode, further safeguarding against normal situations. As the aircraft approaches, notice the upturned wingtips or winglets. These decrease aerodynamic drag and increase fuel economy. Now, to give you a better idea of the aircraft's overall size, these winglets are nearly 9 feet tall.
Yeah, coming in right now, Brian, they just don't look it, but they are 9 feet up. $222 of these aircraft in the U.S. inventory. About 279 of them were actually built. It was named after the Douglas C-74, the Douglas C-124, hence the name the Globemaster III.
And in case you're wondering how big the C-17 is, the wingspan is 170 feet, the tail is over 5 stories tall, and fully loaded it weighs over 580,000 pounds.
One of the keys to the aircraft's success is 170,000 pound payload. Just what you can put in the back of the aircraft, bringing a max takeoff weight of just under 600,000 pounds. Now, as you can see, the aircraft, the C-17, very maneuverable at both high and low speeds, making it very easy to operate in any tactical situation. Some interesting facts about the Globemaster III. First of all, the aircraft, as we said, can fly anywhere in the world, but it can do it non-stop using the air-to-air refueling capability. Air Force personnel routinely fly 24-hour missions with a single crew. The most basic crew complement required to operate the C-17 is merely 2 pilots and a single loadmaster. The heavy-duty landing gear allows it to land on surfaces such as cement, sand, dirt, even ice. And as a result, the C-17s have been in over 180 countries on every continent in the world since its production began. And lastly, all current Air Force crews are trained in the use of night vision goggles, NVGs, allowing them to operate in unlit, austere locations around the globe and to own the night during combat operations.
The C-17 will now rejoin with the KC-135 aerial demonstration team for the aerial refueling pass, followed by the KC-135 demonstration. The 97th Air Mobility Wing at Altus Air Force Base in Oklahoma has the unique mission of training the world's C-17 and KC-135 pilots, loadmasters, and boom operators. Every year, over 2,000 students graduate from the rigorous aircrew training at Altus. To showcase some of this unique training, the KC-135 and C-17 will begin an air refueling pass, demonstrating the skill required to precisely fly this type of formation. During air refueling, receiver pilots and the KC-135 boom operators must work as a team, maintaining a stable position for upward of 20 minutes with only 20 feet between the bodies of the aircraft. So large is each aircraft that even a slight movement in one actually affects the aerodynamics of the other.
The rejoin skills the Air Force and Navy and Marine pilots are taught don't just apply to fighter aircraft, as you'll see out there right now. We're bringing two aircraft weighing in each at about 500,000 pounds. Rejoining together, the C-17 initially having about a 50-knot overtake and working the rejoin onto the KC-135 for the simulated refueling. You can imagine the complexities of bringing an aircraft with that much mass and then slowing it, doing it just in the right amount of time. We saw the rejoin with the fighter aircraft. This is a whole different game out here. And if you think it's all done automated, it's not. That's a skill that the pilots have, and it's done all visually. They do have capabilities to get the aircraft in very close proximity when they are in weather conditions, but ultimately they do need to break out into the clear to be able to join up. KC-135, very similar to the Boeing 707, been flying since about the 1960 time frame. It was the U.S. Air Force's first jet-powered refueling tanker, designed during the Cold War to refuel our strategic bombers and give them the range to be able to strike into the former Soviet Union. And Vietnam and Desert Storm, however, we saw the versatility of using the KC-135 to refuel fighters, and now the cargo aircraft like the C-17 you see before you. All right, take a look. You'll see the KC-135 leading the C-17 as it approaches the airfield in a refueling formation. Now, normally accomplished upwards of around 20,000 feet. They're going to give you this amazing demonstration at just 1,000 feet off the deck. This formation permits the KC-135 to transfer fuel to the C-17 in midair and ultimately allows both aircraft to enhance the Air Force's capability to accomplish its primary mission of global reach and global air power. Air refueling allows the aircraft to fly around the globe in a matter of hours without the need to land, and both crews are comprised of members of the 97th Air Mobility Wing, the 97th Ops Group at Altus Air Force Base. So get on up there and cheer as these two huge aircraft fly past just 1,000 feet above you, more than 300 miles per hour. And following this low altitude path, you will see both massive aircraft take a turn on the tanker pilot's command.
As the aircraft break up their formation, the KC-135 is maneuvering for its landing attitude demonstration. The KC-135 aircrew for today's show is Major Kyle Nunez, Major Jeremy Orsowitz, and Major Zachary Marks. They're assisted by Boom Operator Technical Sergeant Eric Lucio.
KC-135 pilots the proper landing picture for a safe touchdown. The KC-135 is limited to 4 degrees of bank on a landing make it very challenging to land in windy conditions. And that reason for that 4 degrees of bank, if you bank it more than that, the engines are going to scrape on the runway. So let's take a look at that as they run it right down final approach. Well, literally at about 4 feet off the ground, that's a pretty impressive low approach. Coming in on a short final now, the C-17 is setting up for its landing. It's going to maneuver for a short distance full stop landing. The crew's setting up for this approach. The aircraft just under 120 miles an hour, hanging onto the flaps on that steep 5-degree approach angle. Watch the short field capability on this. Major crawling on the short field landing and the reverse backup. Hey, how about a round of applause for the United States Air Force capabilities? KC-135 C-17 crews, all the way from Aldis Air Force Base in Oklahoma. Thanks for being here, folks.
You know, Huggy, all the maneuvers you've seen here today are examples of those flown by our operational air crews on a regular basis, as they provide the highly responsive...
Mike! Oh. Get him back on the ground. We got to get him back on the ground. He doesn't know how to fly. He's never flown. All right, we got a roll crash fire and okay, he's crash fire and rescue. We need them out here now. Okay, Jim, I think we're gonna need to we got to do something out here. I'm not really sure what to do. It's pulling up. He's got to bring this thing right straight on down. Okay, folks, keep in mind this person has no flying experience whatsoever. All right, pilot in the cut. Red Jeffro, can you hear me? I think he is having a rough time up there today. Okay, we can hear you now, Mr. Jeffro. Can you hear me okay? I don't know what happened. We've got to get you back down on the ground here safely if we can. I've flown a few things, but this is going to be a tough one to try to talk you on down on this, but I think we can do it. Okay, you're already doing a pretty poor job on it right now. We'll give it some tips. Okay, so the stick in the middle, when you push it forward, you're going to go down lower. The houses are going to get bigger. Pull that stick back, the houses are going to get smaller. So what I need you to do, keep heading in that direction right there if you can. All right, you see you're in that right turn. Move that stick a little bit left and right. You'll kind of get a feel for things. You don't have that banjo. Oh, something just came out of the aircraft. I think you got toilet paper coming out of your aircraft, Red. Oh, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Put the rudder in, the thing with your feet. There you go. Get that aircraft moving around. Folks, we got to get the crash fire rescue over there at Show Center. Absolutely unbelievable that you've never flown this aircraft before and you still haven't run it into the ground yet. But just watch out for that toilet paper if you would. All right, Brian. I don't know what we're going to do on this. All right, Red. Are you hearing me okay? I can hear you, yeah. You gonna teach me how to land this thing? I can see, I'll tell you how to land it. We're gonna give it a shot. Okay, what next? What next? Alright, what do we need to do? Hold on, get away from those buildings down there. Get away from the buildings. Okay? Alright, now I want you to turn back. That's good. Now, see the concrete? That big, long interstate in front of you? There you go. Bring it right back on down there. Good, good. Easy now, easy now. Bring that throttle in your left hand all the way back and get that aircraft. Oh, hey! What is it? Huggy! I don't know what to do. We're going to have to try to find another solution on this. Stay away from the ground for right now until we figure it out. We're talking it up here. Let's head on back. We'll get you back near the front of the approach of the runway, the front of the runway, if you will. Raise that wing up. Raise that wing up. You got any other ideas? I've got one more idea. It's not a great one. I think we're going to have to bring out the ambulance. Okay, I'll send the ambulance out here. All right, we got the ambulance on order. They're ready for you. We actually got a very specially modified ambulance out here. You can't make this work. Okay, what do I do? All right, I want you to get lined up on that piece of concrete. We're going to have the ambulance right out there. He's got a super magnet on there. We're going to see if we can get that ambulance to try to draw the metal of the plane right onto the top of it. Will that work for you? Whatever you say, Huggy. Okay, line up. There you go. Looking good. The magnet's pulling you in. Looking really good, Red. Nicely done, Red. We got them. Oh boy. All right, Mike. We're gonna have to get Mike to. Okay, get away from that. Let's go try that again, Red. We're gonna turn the magnet up on that ambulance. Mike, if you can hear me in the ambulance, I need you to go full power on the magnet. Full power. Here we come with full power. That one was on me, Huggy. I chickened out. I felt the magnet pulling the fillings out of my mouth. You can do it. I know you can. You know, you get your feet up in this thing. It's kind of like mud surface. All right, Red, Mike and the ambulance are back in. He's got the magnet at full power. I want you to try that again. It was a nice job last time, especially since you have no flying experience. Let's give it one more shot, and then we'll come up with a real drastic answer if we can't make that work. Okay, one more time. All right, Mike, you got your insurance up to speed, right? Oh, watch out for the ambulance. All right, folks, place your bet. Who thinks he's going to make it on top of the ambulance? Raise your hands. Who thinks he's not? Oh, you got a lot of confidence going on here. All right, Mike, he's coming up right behind you now. I got the magnet super full. Mike, he's about 50 feet behind you. You can do it, Red. Like Luke Skywalker. Nicely done, Red. Good job, Mike.
Well, what do you think, folks? How about that for a precision landing performance? That's none other than Eric Tucker out.
Taken to the skies very shortly.
We want to thank Ameriprise, proud sponsor of the Central Coast Airfest, and Terry Dvorak, who's an amazing financial planner and advisor, well versed in the market. He helps clients take the emotion out of investing, simplifying their financial life, and preparing for a more convenient retirement. In these challenging economic times, he can help make sure you are still on track to meet your financial objectives.
Eric, a very happy anniversary to you and Jill. Nice driving, Mike. Well, we've got the Mosquito out on the runway coming up. The Mosquito, we got Corey Lovell, call sign Zippy. He's going to be out there zipping around, pulling some big G's in the aerobatic monster Sukhoi. We're going to take a short break after that. And then Vicky Benzing in that 450 horsepower bull steerman.
And the de Havilland DH-98 Mosquitoes revving the engines and about to take off. Mosquito's one of the rarest aircraft you're going to see here today. This is literally the only one that still flies currently. What's most amazing about the Mosquito, Huggy, is that it is primarily made of wood.
Did you say wood?
Wood. During World War II, when metal was at a premium, they needed an aircraft that would be fast and wasn't too heavy. And de Havilland came up with a way using wooden molds to form the aircraft that you see here today.
One thing I'd like to point out to folks, when you see all these World War II aircraft flying here at the show, again, these are the Mona Lisas of aviation. These aircraft can run full up, when they're running full wartime power, they can really put the speed on, and they're obviously trying to make these aircraft last, so you're not seeing the full capabilities of the aircraft, because they want to baby them, they want to treat them pretty well, so they last a long time. But even so, knowing they've got the power pulled way back, you're seeing some fantastic performances. And again, so we're going to see Steve here show off this beautiful Mosquito.
Well, this aircraft flew in the European theater, the Mediterranean, and Italy, and they were also used in the Pacific War. Flying with the Royal Air Force primarily, but also with the Royal New Zealand, Royal Australian Air Forces.
Like most of the World War II aircraft, tail dragger type aircraft, you see Steve bringing the tail up, get flying speed, and then off the runway he goes. P-38 being definitely a notable exception on not having the tail dragger. More of the standard, what you'd say, a more modern look with the nose wheel. All of the tail dragger pilots very, very proud of their tail dragger heritage, and they, you won't find them.
And then an observer bombardier. The aircraft was very versatile. It could be used for reconnaissance because of its speed, photo reconnaissance. It was also used as a fighter aircraft. It was used as...
One of the other missions I found out about was it was used for fast transport. Now, not a cargo aircraft, but you could certainly put small, high-value packages on the aircraft, and they would, go speed of stink, if you will, across neutral countries, transiting enemy airspace. To get in and out of neutral countries, but transiting the very dangerous enemy airspace.
Well, it's one of the lightest aircraft of its size. It's only 4... Merlin V12 liquid-cooled piston engine with 1,700 horsepower. Other models had a slightly faster or more powerful horsepower engine, but three blades on the prop.
Wasn't there another aircraft in that time frame that was running with a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine?
Yeah, there's one you're going to see in just a little while, the P-51D Mustang.
There was an early aircraft built by de Havilland called the DH-88 Comet, and much of the construction, the design, the concepts used in the Comet translated over to the Mosquito. With the quality required for the U.S. And they elected not to do that. Most of the companies in the government eventually felt the P-38 did the job already.
I think it was that, and there was also a bias against the idea of a wooden airplane. Well, we would build it out of metal. Why would we need a wooden airplane?
I believe this aircraft housed up in the Sacramento area, the caretakers, if you will, of these flying legends. Take a look, show right, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Hinton in the Mosquito bringing it down and low. I need to ask Steve after he lands, but there's also, I'd read on the Mosquito that you could actually put a passenger in there if you had to transport somebody. They would actually ride in the bomb bay, not some 364 time frame. Another British design,
this aircraft. It's not next to the pilot, nor is it behind him. It's really just kind of kitty corner to him. The observer to the pilot is literally seated right next to him, kind of sideways.
25 Sweet Dreams over here flying. It was a static display at our event last night. Did that for a number of months, and then the Army Air Corps left, and the field sat for a number of months unused, and then it was brought back to life with the addition of the P-38 Lightnings that came here for the training. And as we mentioned earlier, the aircraft you see before you, 23 Skidoo, was one of the aircraft actually based here at Santa Maria 80 years ago, 1943. You'll notice when they're taxiing and down the ramp, they're zigzagging left and right. That's simply because the pilot in the cockpit can't see over the nose. And so they're moving left and right just to avoid obstacles, just to make sure there's nothing sitting out in front of them. Steve, pretty well elevated in the Mosquito. For those of you at Show Center, you get an idea of the massive size of this aircraft. And as we find Zippy, he's going to climb on up, get some airspeed for his air start for his upcoming routine. We've got more warblers showing up here in just a little bit. We'll take a little break in the action, I believe, after Corey's done with his act. I'll tell you about that in just 1 second. We'll see if we can get Corey on the mic. Zippy's starting from 4,000 feet diving into the box. He's going to pull himself into a half Cuban 8 with snap rolls on the down line. If you're not familiar with the aircraft, it's actually built in Russia by the Sukhoi Design Bureau. If you're familiar with the modern fighter aircraft that Sukhoi builds, yes, the exact same company. Very, very successful at building these aerobatic aircraft that competed and won many world championships back in the 1990s.
Shake it for the birds, shake it for the bees, shake it for the catfish swimming down deep in the creek, for the crickets and the critters and the squirrels. Shake it to the moon, shake it for the girl.
Zippy sold the first aircraft he had at age of 16 and got his pilot license at age 17. His goal is to inspire others to do the same. He's an advanced instructor in aerobatics and formation.
And he's gotten most of his flying experience through aerobatic competition. He's trained with some of the biggest names in the world. A lot of the Europeans that have won the championship have trained Zippy.
Spin me around this little barn, tangle me up like grandma's yarn. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Shake it for the young bucks sitting in the honky tonks, for the rednecks rocking till the break of dawn, for the DJ spinning that country song. Come on, come on, come on. Shake it for the bears, shake it for the bears.
Coles is also ready to fly the L-39 Albatross jet. Aircraft built in Czechoslovakia, but there's about 300 of them in the United States, actually. Still flown by a number of the Air Forces in Eastern Europe. And Corey's also a volunteer for the Patriot Jet Team Foundation, raising money to inspire youth and get them into aviation. The aircraft are looking, as we mentioned earlier, Corey was going to get to fly the aircraft in a high G profile. Corey's pulling up to 12 Gs, and I believe he said negative 8 Gs. And to give you an idea what that feels like, if you're sitting in your chair and we were to tie you into that chair, flip you upside down, you'd be holding it, be helping that chair by your belt. That's about negative 1 G. Now imagine starting to sling that chair around like you're going to fly out of it. The faster you spin, the more negative G's you get. And negative 8 G sends that blood up to your eyeball. It really hurts. I think Corey's about 160 pounds. So when he's pulling 10 G's, if you put a scale underneath him, he'd be weighing in at 1,600 pounds. At the bottom of a roller coaster, you're pulling about 2.5 G's. He'll be seeing 10 to 12 today. The aircraft is a very, very rugged design, has an ultimate failure load of 23 G's. Corey's keeping it well into the design limits. And there he is doing the Harrier, holding that plane right there on its prop. Almost no airspeed, letting the engine hold it as opposed to the wings. You hear us talk about some of the maneuvers he flies, like the Cuban 8. It's basically a figure 8 drawn sideways in the sky. People want to know, well, why does it end up with the name the Cuban 8? Going back to 1934, there was an American aerobatic pilot who actually went to Cuba and helped train the Cuban Air Force early on in the 1930s. He came back to Florida in 1936, was flying a competition air show for the people in Miami. He pulled a loop, and as coming back to the backside of the loop, he realized he wasn't going to make it, so he rolled out, pulled back, and repeated the thing, and drew that figure 8 in the sky. It was purely by accident. But when he landed, he showed no, I plan to do that, kind of gave it the kind of attitude. When people asked him what it was, he said it was the Ocho Cubano, or the Cuban 8, and that maneuver, now a staple, 90 years later on the air show and the aerobatic circuit. Now the fixed gear aircraft on Corey Sukhoi, very unique. It's a single band, an arc band of titanium. Titanium known for being extremely lightweight and extremely rugged. And very expensive. This aircraft, the aircraft was flown in the 1994 Breitling World Cup Championships in Japan. Built of composite materials to keep the weight down. It only weighs in at 1,600 pounds empty, and even with Corey and fuel on board, a maximum weight of only 2,100 pounds. About 150 of these aircraft were built. Corey also flies with a gentleman named Randy Howell. They fly a 2-ship act. Randy couldn't be with us this weekend. We'll hopefully catch them on the 2024 Air Show circuit in their 2-ship formation act. There goes Corey giving a beautiful Cuban 8. As you can see, drawing that figure 8 sideways in the sky. It was right about there when the pilot realized, hey, I'm not going to make it. Rolled out just like Corey did, finishing the maneuver out. There goes Corey with a big negative 5 to 16 push right over the top. The seatbelt cranked down across his hip bones. So when these pilots get in these aerobatic aircraft, they've got dual seatbelts, and they literally have a ratchet on one of them. They crank it down as hard as they possibly can bear. Corey's sliding the plane up on a slide winder. They crank that seatbelt down so they become welded to the aircraft, and they're not going to move around one bit. He's only going to be doing this for about 12 minutes. And you're using that structure of your hip bone to make you one with the aircraft. Corey's showing the slow roll. very difficult to do when you think about the gravity trying to pull you down as you roll over. He's pushing there, rudder there, and then pulling right back on up. But folks, great competition competitor, Corey Lovell. How about a big round of applause for Corey? Corey's coming right on in now, show right. Give you the photo pass. Get those cameras up, we'll take a look at Corey.
Well, Corey's completed his routine. He's going to bring it back for a landing. I'll check with our air boss. Jim, I think we're going to take a short break. Is that right?
We'll take a little bit of short break. Good chance for you to head on over to our vendors, grab something to eat, something to drink, and we'll be back with you here in just a little bit.
Now, if you've been anywhere in the California Air Show for the last 15 years, you've seen this amazing routine. Going supersonic. Built by the Boeing Aircraft Company in 1940, it was used as a military trainer in World War II. February of 1946, after the war ended, the airplane was sold from the War Assets Administration for, get this, $770. The aircraft's new owner fitted it with a 450 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R985 engine on it. Doubling the horsepower and converted it into a crop duster where it was used for spraying operations throughout the California and Sacramento Valley until 1973. Finally, in 1990, the aircraft was taken out of storage and restored up in Yuba City, California, converted back from its original role as a crop duster. Vicki bought the airplane in 1998. She bases it up at Pine Mountain Lake, right on the edge of Yosemite National Park. As you can see, she loves to fly the aircraft at air shows to demonstrate the grace and beauty of the early trainer. Now, this aircraft looks so beautiful, but Vicki is moving the flight controls around this aircraft is a physical feat. It requires a lot of strength to actually do what you're seeing her do right now. Rolling into that half Cuban 8 we talked about earlier. She pretty much sets the throttle at full, and that allows her to fly full power, full down, and instead of follow this aircraft through the sky, finishing off that beautiful Cuban 8. Now, one of Vicki's become a big passion she's got. First of all, she's likes to inspire people for STEM, especially on the aviation side, and that allowed her years ago to join up forces with California Aeronautical University. Right over in Bakersfield, California Aeronautical University is training the
generation of pilots. And they've got their main campus. It's an impressive purpose-built flight training center in Kern County. They've also got flight centers in Ventura and San Diego counties as well at the campus in Phoenix. Lots of options for you if you want to get into the aeronautical field, working on the aircraft, designing, maintenance, you name it. California Aeronautical University students can get through the program in only 3 years to get their bachelor's degree. This puts them into the pipeline for aviation jobs much sooner than other candidates. It's a very fast-paced, highly structured, and they offer year-round classes. CAU students that are looking to go into the pilot career path can earn 6 certificates and ratings and train on CAU's own fleet of aircraft. This allows them to then move on to the airlines. And CAU has partnered with Delta Airlines to provide their graduates direct and accelerated path to a Delta cockpit. CAU has also partnered with SkyWest, and Air Wisconsin, and the university offers scholarships. Yeah, scholarships to recent high school graduates, including a $10,000 scholarship for their bachelor's degree in aeronautics. Make sure you check out their booth here. Also, calaero.edu for more information. Big shout out to Matt Johnston. I know Matt's out here in the crowd, the president of CAU, California Aeronautics. Of course, CAU and Vicky, you can go back a long, long time on this sponsorship. They share their mutual love of aviation, and this partnership to the rewarding careers of professional pilots or other aviation-related careers. I should say Dr. Vicky Benton. Vicky earned her PhD in chemistry from UC Berkeley and has had a fantastic career in the Silicon Valley high-tech industry. She's also been fortunate to fly around in the company's Gulfstream jet aircraft. If you're familiar with the name Amelia Reed, one of the early and most famous aerobatic instructor pilots from the Bay Area, well, believe it or not, Vicky actually took early lessons from the famous Amelia Reed. She broke into aerobatics about 19 years ago when she took a flight with the legendary airshow pilot Wayne Handley. But Wayne said, hey, this is going to be a very expensive flight because you're going to get addicted to this and you're not going to stop. And as you can see, the bug. If you saw that flame come out, that's totally normal. And she does have to show off that the aircraft doesn't have. She has to keep positive pressure and positive G on the aircraft. And when she unloads it like that, the engine sputters and gives you that nice flame shooting out of the exhaust decks. Vicky's flown over 200 shows worldwide, including the world's largest air show up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. I talked about her racing in the P-51. Plumb crazy this last year, finishing 4th, but she also races in the sport class and in the jet class, where she got the title of the fastest woman in the Reno race's history. Reno finishing up this year, their very last year. Well, hopefully they'll bring it back, but at this point, no planned future for the Reno races. If you'd like to see more on Vicky's beautiful experiment, you can see it in the movie Mercury 13, which you can see on Netflix. It's a great story, it's a true story about the 13 women that trained to be astronauts during the Mercury 7 program. And Vicky flies an experiment in the movie as the stunt double for Wally Funk, who was one of the original Mercury 13 women who is featured in this true story film. Vicky's sponsors include Apex Aerospace Corporation, Oregon Aero, Concord Batteries, Tempest, Climb Aviation, Lift Aviation, Best Tugs, and Method 7 Performance Optics. Rolling on in and coming on the main gear. You see the tail wheels up in the air. She's got speed. She'll smooth it right down onto the main wheels. As the aircraft decelerates, she'll ease that tail back down into 3-point attitude. And she is done for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Dr. Vicki Ben. Two red aircraft on the move. Vicki coming into the chocks now. In the steerman, you'll notice she's going to actually head right all the way down towards show center. In the background, the other red aircraft. No propeller on that aircraft. Vicki's plane is loud, and so is this one in a completely different way. Both beautiful aircraft, a totally different end of the performance spectrum. Coming up. On the takeoff roll, ladies and gentlemen, Jason Soames and the Russian MiG-17. Oh, he is smoking the runway up on this show, and you're going to see a lot more of that in just a short bit as he maneuvers the aircraft back around. Fresco, successor to the MiG-15. The first prototype of the MiG-17 first flew, believe it or not, January of 1950. Now Jason's going to bring the aircraft, Sanders smoke on, right down on the deck. Let's watch, show right from behind the control tower, and take a listen. Remember, 1951, the kickoff of the Korean War. This was the North Vietnamese primary fighter aircraft going up against our F-86s, and we're going to see a little bit of that just a little bit later today. It began the Soviet Air Force in 1953, and although we call it the Korean War, most of the MiGs, we believe, were actually flown by Russian pilots. Air Force Double Ace Ralph Parr. Air Force Double A's Ralph Parks got 10 kills in the F-86 against the MiG-17, and he was convinced that at least 9 of his kills were actually Russian pilots flying him. In one combat scenario, he got so close in a vertical climb, canopy to canopy with a North Vietnamese aircraft, he said he could look inside and see that the pilot actually had red eyebrows. Amazing. The MiG-17 improved on the MiG-15's aerodynamic problems, which made it very unstable at high speeds, and we're going to see the MiG-15 fly a little bit later. That turbojet afterburning aircraft, it's called a Klimov engine, puts out 7,500 pounds of thrust. And Jason's showing off that beautiful double smoke system made by Sanders right here in California. The North Vietnamese called the aircraft the Silver Swallow. It was produced by Poland also, and it was called the Limb 5, the Limb 6, depending on the variation. Jason's aircraft, the former Red Bull aircraft, if you remember this aircraft from about 20 years ago on the air show circuit, flown by Red Bull, Bill Reisman. Jason acquired the aircraft 2 or 3 years ago. and been campaigning up and down pretty much only at the select air shows here on the West Coast. Big looping aerobatics up to about 4,000 feet right now. Jason is also a corporate pilot. He also works on the aircraft. He's also known for flying a number of World War II warbirds, including the Bearcat and the Mustang, and a number of others. Jason lives down in the Camarillo area, flying the Gulfstream 650. The swept wing on the aircraft, very, very similar to the F-86s, which you will see a little bit later. About a 42 degrees speed. He's going to show off this beautiful smoke. Keep the speed down just a little bit so you can frame him up better in your camera. The MiG-17 set up not really as a bomber, didn't have the capability to carry much. They could put a couple of small bombs on the aircraft, but primarily an air-to-air. The MiG-15, the MiG-17 variety of aircraft, when we captured one, it was actually test flown by Chuck Yeager to give us an idea of the capabilities of these aircraft built in Russia at the time. If you're unfamiliar with the concept of the afterburner, which the MiG-17 has, it's a way to get immediate thrust, a lot more thrust on the aircraft. When the pilot selects after using your fuel flow, it's going to limit your time flying or your range against enemy aircraft, or your time is available in an air-to-air dogfight. And obviously, if you start to run low on fuel in the dogfight, you've got to bug out. And if they've got fuel, they can run you down. The size of the cockpit, absolutely tiny. What do y'all think of that smoke system? How about a round of applause for that beautiful smoke? On the path, you can obviously see right now the intake on the aircraft is actually part of the nose. The air going right through, right below the feet and around the foot of the pilot there, ducts right back through to where the engine is. Name an American aircraft that does the same thing? F-100 is one I can think of. He has 3 kids. They're goats, all three of them. 2 3-year-old, a couple of 2-year-olds and a 4-year-old. Well, our air boss, Jim Gibson, is speaking to Jason right now, and Jason says, I'm out of gas. I got to come back and land this thing. So the landing gear...
All the ones that were around Moscow, capital, they were all red.
Quick reminder, plenty of vendors on the field. If you're hungry or thirsty, we've got you covered. Also, no smoking on the ramp, please. A lot of fuel out here, a lot of gas, a lot of jet fuel, so if you would, please, no smoking on the ramp. Big thank you to the Radisson Hotel for putting up all the performers over the weekend. Really enjoyed the stay and the convenience of being able to walk right out of the hotel onto the showground. It's definitely a unique venue for an air show. Just all the performers absolutely love it. Of course, the folks we met last night at the great event here, Bombers and Bourbon. So nice to meet the folks from the Santa Maria Valley, and thanks for coming out and supporting the show.
And they're going to fly together. We're going to talk a little bit about both.
Move into the takeoff position and get the flight going. First aircraft on the takeoff roll, the executive transport called the Howard 500.
Strolling is the P-38 Lightning.
So I'm told by some of the pilots that fly it that the P-38 is so quiet because those GE turbo superchargers, they muffle the exhaust note, so it kind of hides the great performance of the P. I believe you said that was Bernie flying the aircraft, right? Howard? I think it is Bernie Vasquez.
Yes. No, Bernie's going to fly the P-47.
Ah, yes, you're correct.
You can see one of the Lockheed influences, and that is that split tail. Both the P-38 have it and the Howard 500 carry it. First developed on the Lockheed Electra.
Engines. The first stuff we're going to be seeing after the Howard and the Lightning are going to be the World War II aircraft of the U.S. Army Air Force.
Interesting facts about the P-38 Lightning. Most of the aircraft that were flying high altitude, they obviously had to deal with the cold for the pilots. Turns out on the Lightning, the heat transfer from the engines to the cockpit was really almost impossible due to the great distance between the engine and the cockpit. So that meant the pilot was going to be in a very cold cockpit at high altitude. They later solved this problem by actually giving the pilot heated flight suits. On the other end of the spectrum, flying low altitude, the tropics, the cockpit could actually overheat, and since you couldn't really open the canopy to create too much buffet. So you actually have pilots flying in shorts and tennis shoes on these missions just to stay comfortable. Also, as the Mustang comes by, you'll notice the props counter-rotate.
The Lightning.
I did say Mustang. I meant the Lightning.
Yeah, the counter-rotating props help to reduce the torque. So the props spin inward, and therefore they counteract one another. followed by the North American P-51A Mustang, early version of the Mustang, built in Inglewood. And then we've got a P-51C, which would have been built in Dallas. That's a D. And then following that is a P-51D, built in either Inglewood or Dallas, and another P-51D. So the Mustangs, they go through an evolution, and we'll talk a little bit about that. It's based on design, engines, P-51D, followed by the P-40, the Curtiss P-40 with its chin painted in a shark motif. And here comes the Howard and the Lockheed in a flyby.
Flying in style in the Howard.
Yeah, if you look at photographs, they were decked out for luxury and comfort.
And these became the first two air-to-air kills for the P-38. Beautiful photo from the left, ladies and gentlemen. The Howard 500 and the P-38 Lightning. In the July-August timeframe, 1942, about 200 P-38s were flown to the UK. That made it the first U.S. Army Air Force fighter to cross the Atlantic under its... The P-38 that's owned by the museum went through a 13-month restoration by fighter rebuilders at Chino and a lot of museum volunteers. It was built in Burbank, went into service in May of '44. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier, but that aircraft came right here to Santa Maria in the 483rd Air Base Squadron. So 79 years ago, that aircraft was actually based in Corps demonstration here after our World War II, did it? The B-25 Sweet Dreams on the takeoff roll, getting airborne, followed by the P-51. Well, my mistake, the P-40 is rolling.
The P-38 Lightning show up, get landing gear down coming into land. You'll notice it didn't have the range to get to him, but the P-38 did. So 16 P-38s were sent from Guadalcanal to get him as he was approaching Bougainville, which is 435 miles away. These pilots flew at less than 50 feet above the water to avoid detection. And they came up and they saw Yamamoto's two Betty bombers as they reached Guadalcanal. As it turns out, Yamamoto's Betty was shot down and crashed in the jungle, exacting the revenge that the United States had sought. After the war, the P-30 was considered obsolete. Those that remained in the U.S. were sold for $1,200, and the rest were actually bulldozed. Sad to think about that.
We need an aircraft that can fly 200 plus miles at 1,000 feet, climb to 10,000 feet in 5 minutes, and fly 200 miles there. And the other said it can't be done. Lockheed said it could with 2 engines, and that's the Lightning and Skunkworks idea. It takes root.
Now coming down Show Center, the B-25 Mitchell, a couple of P-51s. I've got Travis up here, who's one of the pilots on the B-25, and he's going to give us a little commentary on the aircraft. Thanks for coming up and joining us, but quite the restoration you guys had on this.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Huggy, and we're real happy to be here. Found the airplane in Buckeye, Arizona. Worked a full year to get it flying. Hadn't flown in about 15 years, and now we're here.
Yes, he said it literally took a year going to the aircraft, kicking the pigeons out, kicking the rats out, patching it up, changing all the rubber lines in the aircraft. It took a year of shuttling back and forth to get it so you could just ferry the aircraft to Tucson.
That's correct, and in a very short amount of time, we got the airplane pretty much fully restored, and for the first time last week, and after the restoration. And then we test flew some more this week and brought it here.
So this is probably the first show the aircraft's done in 2 decades, I'm guessing.
Yes, this is the first time it's been out in public for about 20 years.
Okay. So I guess if I recall right, most of the B-25s built in Kansas City. This one was probably late in the war, I'm guessing, on the build.
Yes, this one was late 1945.
Okay. Doolittle had thought that he was an absolute failure at the end of the race. It turned out it was a complete success.
Absolutely a huge success.
So surrounding the Mitchell are a number of Mustangs, and the Mustang was really the definitive escort fighter of the European theater in World War II. Ultimately, it's the P-51 along with the P-47 that kind of knocked the German Luftwaffe out of the sky. There we have the A, the C, and the D.
What a sound. To give you a great idea of the size of these aircraft.
Certainly tell the sound of those Merlin engines on the D models. The aircraft you've probably seen, it was in the movie Pearl Harbor and in the movie Valkyrie. In fact, this aircraft is wearing its Valkyrie paint scheme. That's the aircraft that shoots off Tom Cruise's hand in the movie, in the opening scene. Messerschmitt, the pilot was there, and it was usable. When you see the profile of the Mustangs, the A and the B, you can see what we call a birdcage style cockpit. And then on the P-51D, you see the glass.
Flying the Mitchell, kind of, I mean, you've got an inventory aircraft you've flown, and it's, So what's it like flying the Mitchell?
Well, number one, it's the loudest airplane I've ever flown, but it is probably one of the nicest airplanes I've ever flown too. It's just got an amazing feel.
The British also called them Kitty Hawks. In fact, this version here was a Kitty Hawk originally, and it flew. It's a World War II combat veteran. It flew with the Royal Canadian Air Force, and it has the distinction of shooting down a Japanese Fugo, which was a balloon bomb. One of those down out of the sky.
The P-40 certainly made famous by the B tactics for the P-40 fighter pilots and trained every one of them. He said, don't turn with a Japanese fighter. Instead, use the P-40's superior dive speed to make a single attack, basically slash and run, climb it, and then set up again. Always, and number two, use head-on passes because left of our 3 Mustangs that Brian was telling you about, they're going to come in with what's called the brake for land. They'll split individually, slow on the downwind, put their landing gear down, and then the B-25, Sweet Dreams. Or you'll find that if they're sitting in the left seat, they were deaf in the right ear. Or if they sat in the right seat, they were deaf in their left ear because they always had their headsets off on one ear so they.
And those old headsets didn't do anything for hearing protection.
Now, noise canceling wasn't a thing. They barely had headsets back then. So this is the only A left flying?
Only original A left that still flies, yes.
Now you told the crowd earlier about them being built in Inglewood, California, and what that really is, it's the south. That'd be the southeast corner of what is now LAX Airport and the international cargo ramp.
Yes.
That was where North American Aviation had it, and I think they called it Inglewood instead of LA because the post office from Inglewood was actually closer to there, even though it really is.
Right across the runway is El Segundo, and that's where Douglas was. And so our Dauntless, you're going to see, was there.
So much aviation in LA at the time.
Yeah, Southern California really was the headquarters for aviation production during the Second World War.
The Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. Travis, give me a rough number about how many B-25s do you think are flying in the world?
We think roughly about 75, if I'm correct.
A lot more than I expected. Most of them obviously in the United States, I assume.
Not bad with the rest.
P-40 coming in for landing. Next time you watch Pearl Harbor, when you see the scene of where Josh Hartnett takes Kate Bessengale for a romantic flight over Pearl Harbor, that's the aircraft right there, and that was our own, the museum.
More great action coming up, folks. We're going to slide the timeline quite a bit to the right for the latter part of the show. We're going to bring you some modern military technology from all the services, Marine Corps, Navy, and your United States Air Force. demonstration coming up now. It's a Marine Corps aircraft. It's part helicopter, part fixed wing, slow, it's fast, it's vertical, it does everything. It's an amazing aircraft. It's capable of doing vertical takeoffs, lifting 14,000 pounds of fuel and cargo and personnel. After it does that, it's going to transition from the hover to the airplane mode.
So this was an aircraft that the Marine Corps in particular wanted, something that they could use to bring troops in or supplies in. The Navy flies them as well off of carriers for the same purposes. Really incredibly versatile machine. It is something that you really are, there she goes, straight up like a helicopter. Watch her rotors as they rotate forward.
Now the two pilots have a thumb wheel control on their throttle, and they can rotate that forward, which causes the nacelles to move forward. Now they're getting forward lift as those nacelles rotate forward. Landing gear coming up. So in less than a minute, the V-22 is capable of transitioning from that stationary hover to flying like a conventional fixed-wing aircraft. And as we said, done by modulating the nacelles. Those rotors go all the way full forward to 0 degrees. This allows for really efficient long-range travel speeds upwards of 300 miles per hour. And you'll notice a good shot right there. You notice the rotors are actually dipping down below the aircraft. You can't land the Osprey with the rotors full forward. They have to be at a tilt angle because of their massive diameter.
I give you this.
His co-pilot, Captain Vladimir Valdenegro from Florida. Again, nice shot of those big rotors. The question came up, well, what if you can't rotate the rotors back? How do you land it? I don't know if it's happened, but they said if it did, they would go and land it like that. The rotors are composite, and once they would strike the ground, they would almost instantly turn to straw, just disintegrate. So you could get the aircraft on the ground. Wouldn't be pretty, but you could do it. Hillsborough, Ohio, Avionics Marine Corporal Tyler Harmleycourt from South Bend, Indiana. Now, as you see, they're rolling into the brake here, about a 2.5 G brake. And you'll see the nacelle start to rotate back into the slow speed mode. All the controls right there on the throttle and the stick. The pilots don't have to take their hands off of that. And they've got heads-up displays that'll show them exactly where they are in the computer control. Fly-by-wire aircraft, I believe they said there's 3 computers on board the aircraft for redundancy.
Yeah, and it's capable of carrying 24 troops and can fly over 850 nautical miles. And it was impressive in its speed as it made those passes too.
Now they're getting the rotors into the 60-degree angle. It's going to give them their slow flight convention, sort of the flight in between a conventional helicopter and a fixed-wing aircraft. To train for the rigors of flying the V-22, the pilots must be proficient in both fixed-wing and helicopters, and that's why these pilots go through both fixed-wing and rotary training when they're going through Naval Flight School. Version of the Osprey, actually, it was a prototype. It was a much smaller aircraft called the Bell XV-15, I believe it was. It was more of a way to test the technology, which was very new at the time. Also on the aircraft, Flightline Marine Lance Corporal Mark Bender from Parker, Colorado, and the Airframes Marine Corporal Thomas Frazier from Frederick, Maryland. All over the U.S., Maryland, Colorado, in Africa, ambushed, shot up really bad. The crews were able to get both of the aircraft back and landed, and they received the McKay Trophy, which is the most meritorious flight of the year. I bet one of the pilots was quite a harrowing story of over nearly 120 shots into the aircraft, leaking everywhere. They were able to get the aircraft safely on the ground. pilot's preferred method of landing is like you just saw there, the vertical landing. The pilot's now rotating the nacelles to the 60 degree for the short field takeoff. The Osprey also capable of a vertical, what they call vertical resupply in the Navy, bringing cargo into the ships throughout the fleet. By doing the short field takeoff as opposed to the vertical takeoff, it allows the aircraft to carry an additional 3 tons of cargo. The early concept for an aircraft like this came about over Well, they make it look easy, ladies and gentlemen. A round of applause for your United States Marine. Like an R20, 100 double loss. Pratt & Whitney on the full power there.
3,000 horsepower engine right there.
This aircraft, like you said, the Republic D40. 15,700 of these aircraft were built. Already finishing off the second half of the Q&A. The P-47 fleet flying over 500,000 missions during the war, delivering 132,000 tons. Bonnie was wrecked in Papua New Guinea and sat there for many decades, finally recovered and brought back to Air Corps. And the final result, what you see before you now. With its 850 caliber machine guns and 2,500 pounds in bombs, the P-47 could deliver a very deadly punch. So Brian was just telling me about this aircraft, the D model built in Evansville, Indiana. Planes of Fame also has a P-47, and I believe it was a G model. Going under restoration, maybe they'll bring that aircraft up flying here in the near future?
Yeah, she's actually on getting new landing gear as we speak, so she'll be back in the sky soon.
And I forgot what you said where the G models were built. They're not Indiana.
No, the G models were built by Curtis Aviation out of Buffalo, and where this one was built by Republic, who designed the aircraft. In fact, this is the Thunderbolt designed by Alexander Carvelli, and the A-10 was also the last aircraft designed by Alexander Carvelli.
Really? Both named the Thunderbolt.
Yes, both are named the Thunderbolt. This literally is an aircraft that was designed around an engine and a turbo supercharger. They designed the engine.
Send on over to the Air Corps Aviation website. You can probably just Google search Republic P-47D Bonnie, and it'll probably come right up. They've got pictures of the aircraft when it was being hauled out of the jungle in New Guinea. Didn't look quite like it does right now.
Rescued from the jungles of New Guinea, now restored to probably as good a condition as it was when she first rolled off the assembly line in the 1940s, is really so that current generations and future generations will be able to see and hear and experience what these aircraft were all about. And that's really the purpose of these museums like that today. And we're very proud to present aircraft like this for you to see. These aircraft are a vanishing breed, and we'll never see anything like them again, and so to see them in the skies is really where they're meant to be. First entered combat in the end of World War II, 1944, with the German Me-262. The Americans were able to get the
Well, the good guys, the bad guys in formation together, the adversary pass. Early F-86 of the A model really was up to the MiG standard, only 5,200 pounds of thrust. The F-86E model really evened out the game with the MiG, 5,700 pounds of thrust. It had a different wing, about a 10% increase in the thrust. But like the museum's aircraft, the F model, the F-86F, even better, especially at high altitude, 6,100 pounds of thrust, about an extra half foot on each wing, about a 3-inch deeper wing also. I was talking to Steve Henry, who's flying. He said the MiG will accelerate better under 300 knots, but then the F-86 rules above that. And the Planes of Fame Sabre was fitted with a fighter bomber wing that's even larger. It was designed to carry a single nuclear weapon.
Both aircraft were hundreds of aircraft that he's flown.
50 years in the Sabre, huh?
Yeah.
Well, he started when he was 7 years old?
He actually did.
Quick little bit of history on the MiG-15. Yuri Gagarin, the first man into space, Soviet. He actually was killed flying the MiG-15, a UTI, a trainer version, the two-seater version, in March of 1968. I think he went into space, what was that, 1959, 1960-61 time frame.
first air-to-air kill with the AIM-9 Sidewinder, a favorite of all the fighter pilots in the military, with a Taiwanese F-86 shooting down a Chinese MiG-15.
The MiGs initially were flown by Soviet pilots, and then later Chinese pilots and North Korean pilots. Our particular MiG is flown by Chris Fahey. Chris is a former Air Force pilot, now a commercial airline pilot, and he also, the pilots at Planes of Fame also work on the aircraft that they fly, so you'll see Chris constantly at work on the MiG.
Yeah, Chris, 12 years in the military, went through pilot training with the Air Force at Shepherd Air Force Base and was assigned to the F-16. Spectrum flying the F-16 and jumping back into the 70-year-old design, plus-year-old design of the MiG-15. Not a big cockpit. We talk about the MiG-17 being a small cockpit. This one's even a smidge smaller. So squeezing into that for folks today would be it's quite the squeeze.
Well, it's an uncomfortable aircraft to be in. He doesn't have great visibility, unlike the Sabre, which has a larger canopy and a bigger bubble on it. The MiG has semi-hydraulics, where the Sabre has full hydraulics.
And despite the initial success, the performance of the swept-wing MiG was superior to that of the straight-wing aircraft like the F-80 and the Navy F-9 Panther. The 4th Fighter Interceptor wing with its F-86A Sabre was rushed to the Far East and began clashing with the MiGs a month later in the December 1950 timeframe. And for the next 2.5 years, the Sabres and MiGs, which we mentioned earlier, were generally flown by Soviet and other Eastern Bloc pilots. They dueled in the skies over the Yalu River in an area called MiG Alley. At the end of the war, the Sabres had a 14-to-1 ratio. That was later revised to about a 7-to-1 kill ratio over the opponents. The aircraft were both fairly capable, but the lopsided ratio is attributed to the superior pilot training given to U.S. Air Force pilots. They put award $100,000 and political asylum to the first pilot to fly one to the West. And sure enough, in September of '53, a North Korean pilot defected in a MiG-15, and I actually met him about 10 years ago. I was living in the southeast U.S.
Yeah, he lives down in Florida way, and Kenneth Rowe is his name now. And he took that $100,000, came to the United States, raised a family, got 2 college degrees. Fantastic. And that MiG today is in the Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio.
MiG-17 fly earlier. The MiG-17, more thrust, got the afterburner and a slightly more sweep on the wing, but as you can see, they look very, very similar. Brian, you were telling me yesterday about the Rolls-Royce Neat engine. The Russians basically copied it, 5,000-pound thrust, and they upgraded the engine to the 6,000-pound thrust. The Russian designers had captured much of the German aircraft design documents, but until they were able to steal the engine design, they really couldn't get themselves above about 2,500 pounds of thrust. And the rest is, as they say, history. The MiG leading the Sabre left to right. They're their final pass. Keep those cameras ready. Each aircraft pulling up right in the the power back to idle and slow themselves on the downwind. You'll extend the landing gear and the flaps and bring it back to a nice landing gear on runway 30 at Santa Maria Airport. Once again, thanks for joining us today on the tarmac here as we look at the greatest collection of aircraft. Planes of Fame provide. And the Sabre on short final. Anymore, it's all one, isn't it now? So Master Sergeant Thomas from a Viper demonstration team is going to take the mic. It's all yours.
Pressing her into the seat with a force of 9 times her normal weight, or 9 Gs. F-16 and the Put all the ice on in the booth. At the gate outside, when they pull up, they give me loose. Yeah, jump out, boys. We pull up, we need it. It's off the ring, we out of the bus. Had to hit my whole town, lift up the news. For all of lockdown, we made no moves. Now it's 4 a.m. Man, I'm back up popping with the gold. I just let it in. Just be mixing spot like Jamba Joe's. Different color chains.
And now, one more time from your right. Watch as Rebel unleashes the sound of freedom. She'll flirt with the sound birds across the show center at 950 feet per second.
Coming in hot, just like the fajita. I write what I live, my life in the speaker. I'm nice with the flow, just like the demeanor.
As she approaches showland, Captain Feeler will set up her favorite series maneuvers, which will demonstrate the F-16's ability to turn tight and stay predictable. A trait which helps the fighter survive against low altitude winds. She will then quickly transition from a horizontal flight into vertical. Ladies and gentlemen, from your left, it's the Falcon turn. Captain Phoenix now slowing the F-16 to prepare for a slow-speed, high-alpha pass. While the fighter can fly more than twice the speed of sound, slow-speed control is just as important as those who fly. High-alpha refers to the high angle of attack in which the aircraft will be flying. Rebel will be holding the fighter in 23-degree nose-up position and moving at only 120 miles per hour. When she reaches show center, Captain Feeler applied 4 afterburner and accelerate her aircraft into a nearly vertical climb, demonstrating the F-16's awesome thrust-to-weight ratio in a maneuver we proudly call the rocket launch.
Yeah. Whoa, hold on. Whoa, walk it like I'm talking. Whoa, walk it like I'm talking. Walk it like I'm
Now, watch as Rebel sets up for a maximum performance spot with a series of aileron rolls. As she pulls back on the stick, you'll see the Viper's exceptional power at rolling the moon as she sends it from 300 feet to 3 miles.
Ladies and gentlemen, Captain Feeler's begun a spiraling descent in preparation for the dedication pass. Captain Feeler and the rest of the F-16 Viper demonstration team from the 20th Fighter Wing wish to dedicate this pass to the men and women of all branches of the armed forces and their families who are so bravely fighting to this joint fight. But also defending this great nation. Because of other opportunities, so get your cameras right.
Found my heart, broke it here, made friends and lost it through the years. And I've not seen the boring fields in so long. I know I've gone, but I can't wait to go home. He craves some ice cold,
flight, I would like to take a moment to describe the history of what you're about to watch. In 1997, the leaders of Air Combat Command assembled a select group of retired military and civilian pilots. Civilian pilots to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the United States Air Force. From this gathering was born the Heritage Flight, a unique visual representation of the Air Force's history from the days of the Army Air Corps to the present.
What had started out as a one-time event has grown in popularity and demand. In 2010, the Air Force Heritage Flight Foundation joined with the United States Air Force to keep this popular program flying. And now, heritage flights are performed at air shows and special. Today is Steve Hinton, call sign Steve-O, in a beautiful World War II era P-51 Mustang, and Captain Amy Fiedler in your United States Air Force F-16.
So that
runways, and you have a fighter that can operate from thousands of airfields in virtually every country in the world. While today's demonstration shows you how well the F-16 can maneuver in combat, what we cannot show you is the striking power from the accuracy and lethality of the weapons it carries. The Viper can hit targets well outside of visual range while flying faster than the speed of sound. Coupled with innovative, motivated, versatile, and adaptable airmen, the United States Air Force F-16 Fighting Falcon is applying new technologies and capabilities never before employed on a fighter.
As proud members of an all-volunteer Air Force, we hope our performance has inspired you to serve your country alongside the professional men and women you see here in action today. Either flying in the cockpit of an F-16 or on the ground guaranteeing its readiness to fight. On behalf of the United States, the Commander of Air Combat Command, General Mark Kelly, and all the men and women of Air Combat Command, thank you for your attendance, thank you for your patriotism, and thank you for your support. And it's back to you, Huggy.
Korea.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Left of the Mustang? There's quite a few actually.
Famed Navy Marine Pacific Theater demonstration. I've got Brian Finnegan up here from Planes of Fame. He's the director of the education programs and museum development. Really a nice encyclopedic knowledge on these aircraft, and he's going to assist me on the narration for the Pacific Theater here. Check, test. 1, 2, 3. The first aircraft you see here approaching show center in the bank. That's the Dauntless. Douglas SPD Dauntless. SPD is slow but deadly. Flown by both the Navy and the Marine Corps. It was the Navy's main carrier-based scout and dive bomber from 1940 to 1944. Corsair from the left, folks. U.S. Marine Corps fighter attack aircraft. Less than 30 of these still fly. The only Navy ace of Korea, Lieutenant Guy Bordelon, he flew an F-4U night fighter. Grumman F-8 American a fantastic aircraft. In fact, a very successful aircraft all the way through the Reno races, but never really saw any Japanese Zero.
So the F-4U Corsair, first developed 1939, got the longest production cycle of any World War II aircraft, continued all the way to 1953.
Of the U.S. Marine Corps with the first Corsair ace, an ace Big 5 air-to-air victories, and he finished World War II with 21 kills in the Corsair in the Pacific Theater.
Again, the Bearcat, this Planes of Fame aircraft, is featured in the film Devotion, which tells the story of the first African-American naval aviator, Jesse Brown and Thomas Hudner.
You'll notice when the Bearcat goes by the bubble canopy, it was actually earlier on body. The Corsair's got that, that gull wing, same reason, massive propeller on there, and they had to dip the wing down, that's where the landing gear are, to give it the higher stance for the propeller to clear the ground.
show left is the F4U Corsair. This is the oldest flying Corsair in the world, the F4U-1A of the Planes of Fame Air Museum. This is a World War II combat veteran. Flew with Marine Corps Squadron BMF-17 out of the South Pacific, and may have actually been shared by other squadrons, including BMF-214, the famed Black Sheep Squadron. Later it was transferred to BMF-41, flying out of the Marshall Islands in the Central Pacific. It had been a movie prop, and by the time we acquired it, it had lost its wings and it was being used as a wind machine for storm sequences. That powerful R2800 with 2,000 horsepower must have kicked up quite a lot of wind and saved the studio some money, I guess. Just wheel the aircraft to wherever they need it, turn it on, instant storm.
Since restoration, this Corsair from Planes of Fame has taken part in numerous air shows and flown in a variety of video.
And of course, season, and the plane sat on the ground a lot of days just making money. The Bearcat was designed as a hot rod. It was meant to be one of the fastest propeller aircraft in the service, and as Huggy mentioned, it went on to success at Reno as one of the fastest aircraft flown by several pilots over the years.
Painted in reverse. It was a yellow with a blue trim, and they called it Beetle Bomb. It was an SNJ, and they would go and attack the aircraft. That was actually part of the demonstration.
So we just saw the Corsair and the Bearcat. They were two Navy and Marine Corps fighters. The Douglas SPD Dauntless, a dive bomber from World War II. Probably its most famous days were in June of 1942 when it fought at the Battle of Midway and the Dauntlesses downed 4 Japanese carriers. The TBM Avenger is originally designed by Grumman as the TBF Avenger and later manufactured by General Motors as the TBM Avenger.
Here. It was the first aircraft to feature a folding wing mechanism, which was designed by Grumman, which took the wings flat against the fuselage.
90-degree angle, taper off to a 70-degree angle, and when it was about 2,000 feet over its target, release its bomb on a cradle, swinging the bomb into it. It's
another great designer that worked for Douglas at the time, Ed Heinemann, later on designed the jet, the A4, another aircraft also flown by the Blue Angels, but he designed the SPD Dauntless. He took Jack Northrop's design that he had from an aircraft called the BT-1.
Avenger was the largest carrier-based aircraft of the Second World War, and for the most famous pilot.
SPD was phased out in 1944 after quite a very successful war. As far as action against the enemy,
TBM Avengers after the war were used as fire bombers. You can see the bomb bay doors are open now. And they had originally carried water and later Phos-Chek in the bomb bay.
The TBF Avenger built by Grumman.
Yeah, the Navy had a unique naming convention. TB, torpedo bomber, and then
that disappeared, and that was what really got people thinking about the Bermuda Triangle. That was what started it.
Corsair coming in for its landing, you can see the landing gear extended and how the landing gear is actually the lowest point because of the dip in the inverted gull wing. That allowed it to land on carriers and sea without too much bounce.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. That propeller is 13 feet in diameter.
Its landing, again, intentionally designed to be small and fast, and had it made it into World War II, it would have made a significant impact.
It's a massive size difference, really shows up well with the formation here.
And there you have the Avenger and the Dauntless, the two bombers from the Navy and the Marine Corps World War II. Both carrier-based.
Well, As we said, Planes of Fame has the greatest.
And here comes the Avenger in for its landing. And finally, the SPD Dauntless. This particular aircraft is also a World War II combat veteran. Very rare to see that those aircraft come back and still fly. Most of them were literally pushed over to the side of the ships when the war was over. The Dauntless has perforated dive flaps that would allow it to slow down during its dive, giving the pilot control. Had a rear-facing gunner with a twin 30 caliber machine guns on it.
Show center, show left, on the roll. Bringing that gear up just inches off the deck. Dennis Sanders flying the Hawker Seafarer that they call 924. And up on the stand with me, I've got Joel Slaughter. Joel knows a little bit about flying Seafarers. Says he's won a Reno 3 times. Look at that beautiful roll in that smoke system. Don't know if the winds are going to cooperate today, but you're going to see a very, very unique set of smoke come out of this aircraft, possibly forming smoke rings. It's just majestic if the winds are just right. But Joel, thanks for being up here with me. It's great to see Dennis in 94. Actually, I should throw Dennis a little love. He won Reno in 21, wasn't it?
That's right.
So 924 is part of a fleet of 3 aircraft that the
That's the original Bristol Centaurus engine.
Of the handful that are still flying, the Centaurus engine is a pretty rare one, I would assume. Is that right?
Very rare, yes.
I'm curious if you guys get a discount on the smoke systems.
You could say so.
So for those who are not familiar, the Sanders family, they make the smoke systems here, and they sell them internationally, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're all over the world.
So you see a lot of the foreign air forces fly, for example, the Dutch F-16s, they have the missile rails, and they've got the dual smoke. Those are actually built by the Sanders family here in Northern. Take a look at that.
Oh, that's cool.
And you can hear the unique sound of the Centaurus with the sleeve valves.
Beautiful Cuban 8. Dennis taking it through the bases. How long does Dennis have to practice to make the smoke rings do that? That's pretty amazing. So now, did you say the aircraft was at one point a single? It was built originally the 2-seater, was it converted back to single and then back to 2-seater?
This one was built as a 2-seater, full set dual controls.
It was the last propeller-driven fighter to serve with the Royal Navy, and the lineage comes from the Hawker Typhoon and the Tempest fighters. 864 Sea Furies built. Joel was telling me about 25 to 30 or so still flying worldwide. At least 4 of them we can think of in California, maybe 1 or 2 more. Tired by the late 1950s as the jet age took over. Let's listen to Dennis bring this right on by Show Center. That's just beautiful. Folks, how about a big round of applause for Dennis? You like those smoke rings?
We should have a...
All right, Dennis is going to change it up here. Slow everything down for the slow pass. Great plethora of aircraft all the way down towards the control tower over at show right as well as over at show left by the chalet. How much smoke do you tend to go through in a routine like that, or smoke oil do you go through?
We're going to go through about 20 gallons.
At 10 aside, okay. And keep in mind, folks, when you see the smoke, it's actually not a toxic smoke. They use a non-toxic oil. They heat the oil, which gives it the white smoke that you see. So if it blows over to the crowd or what have you, it's not going to be toxic. Now, just watch the smoke here as it starts to form into the vortices of the wing. You'll see that little tornado action. The wings put off little invisible tornadoes, and when it catches the smoke, it starts to twist it up, which is why you're seeing that turbulence starting to break it up.
Oh, wow, I didn't even see that over there.
Well, Dennis. What a beautiful sound. Joel Swager, ladies and gentlemen, one of the pilots of the Hawkins Fury. Joel, thanks for coming on up here, and thanks to you and Shannon. I know your corral, the kids, and I hope they're having a great time, but I appreciate you cutting away and coming and joining us on the microphone.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You're a lucky guy. Coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, we got a very unique act. We're going to see Eric Tucker again, showing you extraordinary skills that he has with the aircraft. The Piper Cub, only putting out about 67, 65. Smack overhead, he's into his routine. Now the Cub, not known as an aerobatic aircraft, but he's going to show you some aerobatics of the Cub and something very, very unique. He would also like to dedicate this performance to his wife on their anniversary. Eric's a family man, father to a band of brothers and husband to the raddest wife in the world. As you saw earlier, he's a banjo picking, seaweed pickling, organic gardening, artisan bread baking, CrossFit and surfing backpacking guy. He does it all, loves it all. Now the Piper Cub, you don't think of it again as an aerobatic aircraft, and he's going to smoothly put you through these paces here. Eric growing up on the airshow circuit. If you're familiar with Sean D. Tucker, yeah, that's his dad. So from the time he was 9 till he was 16, he traveled quite a bit with his father and actually became the announcer for Mr. Tucker Sr.'s acts for many, many years. Eric soloed at 14 years old in gliders, and he soloed at 16 in the family's Pitts S2B. In high school, he dabbled in aerobatic competition, and as soon as he got his flight instructor rating, he quit painting houses for a living and began teaching aerobatics. Now, one of the things I want to draw your attention to, if you take a look at the aircraft, he's got the engine off. He's never had the engine on since he started this routine. It's called a dead stick landing. If you'll see the propeller out there, you'll notice it may turn a half a turn as the wind goes through it, making it move. But he's got the engine off the entire time. Now I'm going to bring the music down a little bit. We're going to see if we can hear the wind actually going through the wings. We'll quiet it up just a little bit as he gets a little closer, and I think you'll actually hear the whistling of the aircraft. Waiting for his high-speed pass to get that wind through there. Now, Eric's not just going to land the aircraft here. He's going to show you some precision here. He wants to stop the aircraft. He's going to put the propeller spinner, the pointy part right in front, into the hands of Cameron Gossi, Planes of Fame volunteer extraordinaire. Now you'll notice, the whole time, been standing right there on the runway, no engine from over a mile up, and boom! How about a round of applause for the amazing bit of airmanship you just saw right there, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Eric Tucker, dedicated to his wife on their anniversary. Hours of flying. Take a look at the beautiful plan form on this T-33. The T-33 designed by the late great Kelly Johnson. We talked about him with the P-38, also with the F-104, the U-2, and the SR-71. This aircraft very much the ace maker for the pilot of the Korean War era. So the F-80 started out as a single-engine fighter, but we were moving into the jet age, and Lockheed was asked to create a trainer for the pilots that were flying still propeller aircraft. Lockheed took the F-80, basically extended the cockpit by about 3 feet, putting the instructor pilot in the rear seat, and moving us into the jet age for training. The aircraft, the T-33, sticking around until the late 1960s, early 1970s as an Air Force trainer, before we finally transitioned into the supersonic T-38, which you will see at you on the far right side. We have one from Beale Air Force Base. The U.S. Air Force flew the T-33 until approximately 1987, using it in an adversary role with F-15s in Florida and in Hawaii. We're doing the beautiful Cuban 8. As we said, derived from the P-80 and the F-80, it's still got a straight wing, and it's still a straight wing aircraft. And it was also the first operational fighter with an engine inside the fuselage. Now, shockingly enough, I thought, was when I found the first flight of the P-80, January of 1944. And in the mid-40s, you get the cost of the government for one of these aircraft, about $100,000. We've got a lot more expensive over the years. Tony LeVere did the first flight on the aircraft. He also did the first flight on the F-94, the F-104, and the Lockheed U-2. Now, this followed on the heels of the P-39. And the P-80 became the first jet to enter full squadron service in the U.S. Army Air Force. The first transcontinental jet flight occurred in an F-80, 27 January of 1946, and in 1947 it held the world speed record. The U.S. Navy also acquired some P-80s in 1945. At Pax River, Maryland, they modified them with a tailhook and put them on the USS Franklin D. Roosevelt. And in 1946, Major Merritt Carl made 4 deck run takeoffs, 2 catapult takeoffs, as well as 5 arrested landings. 1949, just 3 years later, El Toro became the first West Coast jet squadron that began flying the P-80. Actually, the Marines called it the T-01 before we combined our designations on aircraft. Canada began producing the aircraft. They called it the CT-133. They did this in 1951. And from 58 to 69, the Royal Canadian Air Force's single ship demo was called the Red Knight. It was a very popular routine. You can see Greg bringing it down to doing the lazy H down here at Show Center. You'll notice the very, very distinctive shape of those tip tanks on the wing. The Canadians used these aircraft as adversary aircraft because they were actually very difficult to see on radar. Talked to a Canadian F-18 pilot who would fight against the T-33s and said on a head-on pass, the radar signal, the radar energy would go into the intakes and be buried back up in the where the engine, the leading edge of the engine was, and not reflect back. So actually a very stealthy aircraft head-on by accident. 54 years of service in the Canadian Air Force. They retired him in 2005. Some Canadian jets sold in the private market for as little as $20,000. Right before the Canadians sold it, they spent quite a bit of money on upgraded cockpits. Greg's going to pitch us up and show us the triple rolls. For those of you that fly jets, you know we always measure fuel in gallons and pounds with the Canadian aircraft. Well, they measure them in imperial gallons. You got to do the conversion. Greg, you know, as we mentioned, Greg started out flying L-29s about 20 years ago on the airshow circuit, but he really wanted something American and historic. He saw the aircraft that you see, he bought the aircraft that you see today. Now, if you think back 10 years ago on the airshow circuit, 2013 was when the military went through what they call sequestration. They pretty much quit all of their involvement in air shows for that entire year. Well, if you were throwing an air show and the Air Force canceled on you and the Navy canceled on you, you still wanted a jet, there was only a handful of folks that had them. Greg, a very iconic and historic aircraft, suddenly became in big demand, doing as many as 20 plus shows in that 1 year, all across the country. Well, he was so successful at it that he actually bought a second T-33, put it on the East Coast for his East Coast shows. Of course, his performance, as you see, got rave reviews, and even after sequestration ended, now that he was nationally known, he continued on his path of success, and now Greg has to actually turn shows away because his calendar is completely booked. Now, Greg's gonna slow it down. He's cranking that smoke out slow speed, showing you the landing attitude, bringing the aircraft with the gear down, the flaps hanging. Greg's continued success is in the air show industry allowed him to buy a third T-33, and he founded the T-33 Heritage Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit to help in the preservation of the T-Bird and its single-seat brother, the P-80. Greg's flown for the airlines, and now he flies a 737 for a private client. His formation skills can be seen all over the internet. He's flown photo shoots with just about every fighter in the U.S. Air Force and Navy inventory. He stays in shape for the demanding flying that he does through competitive cycling and running the occasional Ironman triathlon. Greg's now in demand by the military, the U.S. Air Force Test Pilot School and the Navy Test Pilot School contract with Greg to bring him his aircraft. out to let their test pilot students fly the aircraft to get an idea of the change in handling qualities from a vintage aircraft like this aircraft. Again, it's about a 65, 70-year-old aircraft right here. We'd like to give a shout out to its sponsors: Concord Batteries, Strong Parachutes, Wheelin' Lighting, and Airtronics. As Greg finishes up that 4-point roll, he's going to set up for his last photo pass on a left to right banana pass from the corner marker to the corner marker of the show. Greg Collier, the team. How do you like that, folks? I had somebody in the crowd drop me a note to let me know that today, October 14th, is the 80th anniversary of the World War II 8th Air Force mission called the 2nd Schweinfurt. It's known as Black Thursday because they lost 60 bombers, B-17s and B-24s, a total of 600 crewmen on the missions today, 80 years ago. This was the end of Black Week, which was the Air Force's 8th Air Force, is when the 8th Air Force had lost about 140 bombers, 1,400 crew. Let's keep them in our thoughts and honor them.
Lethality. The aircraft performing for you today is the F model, which incorporates a two-place cockpit to accomplish the assigned mission. In today's demonstration, Lieutenant Matt Hugs Phillips from Brookfield, Wisconsin, and Lieutenant David Roomba Sands from Northville, Michigan, will demonstrate the incredible flight characteristics of the Super Hornet. Hugs and Roomba have extensive flight experience in the Super Hornet and have flown numerous sorties in support of operations around the globe. During this flight, Hugs and Roomba will experience G-forces from -3 to up to 8 times the normal force of gravity, and speeds as fast as 700 miles per hour and as slow as 100 miles per hour as they maneuver the aircraft to the edge of its operating envelope. Ladies and gentlemen, please direct your attention to the left, where in a moment you will hear the Rhino's 2 GE-F414 turbofan engines spool up to their maximum power. After brief system checks, Hugs and Roomba will release the brakes, allowing the engine's 44,000 pounds of thrust to accelerate the aircraft to its takeoff speed of 130 miles per hour. to the right as the Super Hornet approaches. Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Hornet high-speed pass. Pulls the aircraft into the vertical and quickly point the jet back at the Earth to reorient for the next maneuver. Full afterburner as airspeed slows to 220 miles per hour. They will perform a very enjoyable -3G pushover to set up for the vertical pirouette. As they pull their nose back up, watch how the aircraft swaps from nose high to nose low. Hugs and room are now setting up for a maneuver known as the square loop. Selecting full afterburner as the jet approaches show center, Hugs and room will rapidly reposition the nose 4 times while flying a square path through the sky. Approaching show center, they will roll the aircraft inverted, reduce power to idle, and hold a level attitude. Ladies and gentlemen, from the right, the inverted whisper pass. Sometimes the aircraft with the ability to fly the slowest will have the advantage in air-to-air combat, as the adversary may be forced to fly in front of the fighter, thus become defensive. Few other aircraft in the world would attempt to maneuver at this slow speed and nose attitude. With 2 digital flight control computers aiding the aircrew, the 40,000-pound Super Hornet remains completely controllable at less than 100 miles per hour. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, the Super Hornet High Alpha Pass. demonstrate the incredible pitch authority of the Super Hornet. Approaching show center, they will roll the aircraft at a 90-degree angle of bank and abruptly pull away from the crowd, showcasing the Rhino's ability to change direction quickly. Hugs and Rupa are now setting up for a touch-and-go landing. As they circle to land, they will ensure that the gear locks into the down position and the flaps extend to enhance lift at the slower speeds required for landing. Once lined up with the runway or in the groove, the aircraft will slow to on-speed angle of attack, which is how Navy tail-hook aircraft determine their landing speed. This on-speed AOA correctly positions the aircraft hook to engage a wire aboard an aircraft carrier at sea. After touchdown, Hugs and Ruba will throttle up to get airborne again and accelerate only a few feet above the ground prior to reaching minimum vertical airspeed. Upon reaching the appropriate airspeed, Hugs and Ruba will pull back on the stick and point the aircraft in a nearly vertical attitude, executing a maximum performance fly. As America progresses through the 21st century, it becomes increasingly important that we reflect on our nation's proud history, the people, events, and technological advances which have made our country great. By remembering, appreciating, and fully understanding the touchstones of our past, we will be able to more successfully chart the course for America's future. With this thought in mind, Commander Naval Air Force has developed a Tailhook Legacy Flight, a dynamic flight demonstration program designed to keep naval aviation's ties to its proud heritage alive and viable. And gentlemen, from the right, the Legacy Photo Pass. Leading the two-plane formation today, and the F-8F Bearcat which is flown by Steve Hinton Sr. Flying number 2 position on the formation is the F-18 Super Hornet, the preeminent strike fighter of today's carrier. Please take a moment to stop by and visit with them after the show and thank them for sharing naval aviation history with us here. An outstanding view of the business end of the preeminent fighters of their respective generations. Ladies and gentlemen, the Legacy Head-On Pass. Appreciation for and understanding of the rich heritage and ever-continuing development of Navy carrier aviation. For those of you pride will represent America's leadership of tomorrow. We hope that you've been inspired by what you have seen here this afternoon and will consider joining the Naval Aviation team. The aircraft is back aboard its floating home. Landing on board a tiny moving runway in the middle of the ocean is a skill that has been continuously perfected throughout naval aviation history. The approach to the carrier is often the most dangerous part of the naval aviator's mission. Landing your aircraft at 130 miles per hour on a few hundred feet of floating steel is extremely challenging and a matter of great pride. Actually used by Strike Fighter Squadron 122 to train new F-18 pilots and weapons systems officers at Naval Air Station Fort, California. The demonstration aircrew you saw fly currently serve as instructors at VFA 122. Today there are over 24 Super Hornet squadrons in the Navy, some of which are at this moment flying in support of combat operations overseas. Ladies and gentlemen, from the left, the Super Hornet carrier brake to full stop. It takes many dedicated and talented young men and women and countless hours to maintain, fix, and fly these machines. Without their efforts, we would not be able to conduct the business we do on a daily basis. A special thank you goes out to our maintenance and support crew with us today. AEC Jonathan Rogers from Jacksonville, Florida. AM1 Christopher Smith from Marietta, Florida. AM2 Zachary Robbins from Stone Mountain, Georgia. AE2 Tyler Carmody from Clinton, Connecticut. AME2 Zachary Alonso from Red Oak, Texas. AD2 Hector Marin Castro from Santa Rosa, California. And AT2 Joshua Stafford from Hanford, California. On behalf of the United States Navy and the West Coast Rhino Demo Team, I would like to thank you all for allowing us to demonstrate the F-18 Super Hornet here at Central Coast Airfest.
All right, a big round of applause for the United States Navy Super Hornet Demo and our two lieutenants here. Well, they have to do the safety and the narration. Tomorrow, they get to go up in the sky and fly. We'll send the other folks over here. So I know they're going to have a good time thinking about that tonight. One announcement, if you are missing something that you are really kind of panicked about, we've got it. Head over to the Lost and Found. We found it over at Beer Station number 1. You know what I'm talking about if it's you. Head over to the building that says, "Welcome to Santa Maria." We've got your item. So if you're kind of panicked that you lost something at Beer Station number 1, head over there, give them an excruciatingly detailed description of what it is, and they'll give it back to you. Well, on behalf of Brian Finnegan, we'd like to thank you for letting us spend time on the microphone with you. My name is John Huggy Huggins. I hope you enjoyed the narration today, and if you didn't, well, then my name is John Hinton.